This is task 2, research task for your folio, due in a few weeks' time on the 11th of May 2012, and I intend on taking you through step by step on how to do this research task, and I'll be referring to this notification that's in front of you that you should all have at this stage, and if not, you need to see your teacher. And I've made a scaffold as well of this task that I'll be working on as well. So I'll start with the scaffold, and you can see that I've got a title page here with the school, college name, our class, Industrial Technology Timber, and the research task, a provision for your name and also the teacher's name. Make sure you get the spelling right. Going back to the notification, there's 3 parts to this, okay? Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. And this is the main part that you need to be focusing on, the description of the activity and obviously the task instructions. Section 1, I've copied and pasted into my scaffold that I'm making here, and then I've broken it up into a table form. I find that the table form is effective and obviously answers the question correctly. So the task in section 1 is to analyse all of the tools, machines and processes to be used for the project. Extra marks will be awarded if images of you operating the machine are used as well. Now I've added that in, you operating the machine. Obviously you need to take photos and might as well have you in it to prove that you can actually use it correctly. You may not like to use the following to assist you with your answer. Again, I said the table is an effective way, and all I've done is I've put the questions that you'll see on the notification, which are these things just here. Create a list of all the tools, how, where are they used, describe each tool. I put them into this here. The rule, a steel rule, tri-square. Now a process would be you making a jig. So if you're intending on using a jig to do lathe turning or a template, then you'd add that in. If you're not, then obviously stick to your tools and machines. With the photographic evidence of you using the machine, you take the photo, insert the picture, and obviously it's of you using it. Now the more detail you go into, so for example if it's you using the machine, you are going to get better marks than if you just go and get one off the internet. Then describe each tool and machine used in the construction of your project. So just give a description. What's a rule? A rule is used to transfer measurements. It's also used to mark a straight line, etc. How and where is it used in your project? Okay, and what else could it have been used for? Obviously it's going to be used for marking out. Marking out of what? So marking out my legs, rails, etc. Okay, more detail you give, better marks you get. And then you go to the tri-square and you move all the way down. Now realistically you should have about 10 tools, okay, that you've currently used. We're not looking about what you're going to use in the future construction of your project. We're talking about what you've used so far. And remember, we've only been doing this for a few weeks now, so obviously the further we get, the more tools we'll use. But I know that some students have spoken to me and they've already got about 15 tools that they've used. Okay, so some will have more than others. I'd say that 10 would be a really good effort. Lots of details is going to get you the best possible marks to meet those outcomes. That's that first section finished. Section 2 of the notification says that we are to look at materials. And at this stage of our project, you've finished your folio and you've identified at least 3 different materials that you've researched. We're actually now going to go on and we're going to use the word evaluate. We're going to evaluate to those different materials. So evaluate the different materials and resources required in the development of your project. So at this stage, hopefully your folio has allowed you to choose the materials. Now we're going to evaluate. So evaluate the different types. This is a scaffold that I've written. You can use it if you like. Again, if the table works better for you, put it in a table. Do it as a PMI with a table. The positive, the minus, or the interesting. Few ideas, but here's my idea. There are 3 materials I researched in my folio. these are timber, glues and fasteners. They're the ones I've used so far. Okay. At this stage of the construction, I have used, the blank there is the type of timber you've used. So for example, if you've used radiata pine or Pacific maple, you'll add that in there. If you've used both, radiata pine and Pacific maple. PVA glue and a range of tools. I use these for, tell me exactly what you've used them for, okay, and the benefits. And that's what we're going to move into the next thing. The best things about these materials and resources are, list all the things you're happy with. So essentially you're doing a PMI, but you're doing it in paragraph form. The things I would improve about these materials and resources are, you know, I might have chosen a more expensive timber if I was able to buy it myself. I might have chosen one with less knots, maybe a clearer grade pine, if I was to choose it from the timber yard. If I was to do this stage of my project again, I would change. Okay, so you'll find that this is probably similar to the last question, but what I want you to do with this sentence is I want you to evaluate the whole project. Okay, so if I was to do this stage of my construction again, would I use my time more effectively? Would I put more effort into all the parts of my project? And the last sentence there is, which is another evaluative sentence, other people have said that the development of my project is going well. If you are going well and people have said that to you, I'm sure your teacher has, if not, if the other peers have, then tell us why. So it might be full stop, and the reasons for this are. That's section 2 done. I've added another page, which is section 3. And section 3, I've copied and pasted. So go back to my research task, just here, section 3. Okay, I've actually just copied that, pasted, so it's a bit bigger. Now in section 3, we're looking at the safety factors to be considered. This is an actual section in Industrial Technology, Timber and Furnishing, Year 11 and 12. So it's part of, and it's an expectation of the HSC folio of the Board of Studies. And in that it's called Evidence of Safe Working and OH&S Issues. So what I've tried to do is, instead of you just answering the questions that you see here, which some people may do, I've put it into the table scaffold, or not table scaffold, but a scaffold that's very similar to one that's in Year 11 and 12. It's a good way for you to get used to it if you continue on and choose Industrial Tech, Timber and Furnishing next year. Question says, assess the PPE and safety precautions that need to be addressed during the project. Again, images may overenhance your overall mark. And it definitely does next year because, as I said, it was called evidence. So what the Board of Studies markers are looking for, they're looking for evidence of you using it, and basically, because they don't know you, you're proving to them that you made the project in a safe manner. You may like to use the following to assist you with your answer. List all the PPE and safety precautions that need to be addressed during the project. You could go ahead and make a big list of that. That would be fine, okay? But I'm going to show you a slightly different way to do that, rather than just have a list of safety precautions with no link to your machines. Why are they important? What risks are there for each process? And what setup steps are used for the individual machines to improve safety? The last question there is, write a list of safety guidelines which may be useful in the construction of your project. Now, rather than just go again and write like a little pocket book, I'm going to try and help you link each one. And yes, it is going into a bit more detail, but as I said earlier, it's actually teaching you the correct way. Okay, so I've done that as a scaffold. So this is section 3. So you either do the previous page, you just answer the questions, or you do this. Now, if you're going to do this, we'd still be looking for you to do this in relation to each machine, all right? Each machine. So, you know, you'd be listing all the PPE for each machine. Whereas this one here, this is actually doing individually. So the first one I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a drill press. Okay. Description of the machine. You can say obviously what it is. It's now there's just a general definition. Setup tips. Okay, and I'm just giving very brief answers here, so we expect you to go into a bit more detail on this. So setup tips. Obviously, the first thing is always clamp timber to the table. You could write that you're going to clamp timber to table, that you're going to preset the drill depth, that you're going to make sure the guards are in place, all those things. Okay, lots of things there. Safety precautions. What safety precautions are you going to put in place? Obviously, make sure guards are closed. Close guards. And you might be simply checking that the depth's correct, making sure that your timber's clamped. Obviously, some of these are going to duplicate themselves. PPE and importance of use, so you might put earmuffs. And the importance of use is to reduce industrial deafness. Alright, general guidelines. Come up with some simple steps, and that's that last question, you know, back up here that says what are the guidelines here, this question here. This is where you're actually writing them individually. So some simple guidelines are that I always like to tell people not to release the feed handle, because what happens is it comes back and flips around and it could hit you in the face. It's you doing a risk assessment of the machine, you know, so how are you going to come up with an effective risk assessment? All right, that means check all parts are secure. All right, check guards in place, make sure that you've got effective safety gear on. And a risk assessment is about how you can minimize the risk to you as an individual, but also people around. Okay, and obviously, if you're drilling something that's going to create a lot of dust or shavings, then obviously you'd need that in a well-ventilated space, or otherwise have the dust extracted. Now, possible uses for the machine. The most possible use for you is to drill dowel holes, but I'm sure you can add many more to that, and list the steps used. So step 1 was clamp timber to bench. Second step would be set depth. Or drill. All the machines need risk assessments done for them. So if you've got 10 tools on this table, then on the last page down here where you're doing the safety factors to be considered, we'd expect that you'd do 10 different tools, hand tools and processes. And that's your research task completed. So effectively, you know, people always say, well, how many pages is that? You got your title page, you got your tools, machines and processes, which, you know, depending on your photograph size, would probably just go about a page, if not just over a page. You've got your evaluation, which is just under, you know, half a page once you add to those sentences, and then that can be done by just answering like that. But again, you're really not being specific to each tool and machine. I would consider that as being, you know, as a satisfactory attempt, but this being a way of extensively covering all the safety factors if you were to consider each of the machines, tools and processes that you've used. And you can see here, insert a picture of you using the thickness start. And if you can, again, I've just written this very, very briefly, but I'd hope that you would add to that, and that would make it a lot clearer. All right, good luck with your assignment.